Thank you, everybody, for waiting so patiently. We are tremendously grateful for your patience. We are amazed, but not at all surprised at the incredible turnout today, all considering the weather ahead of us. It's great to see everyone from all corners of our city and our country dedicated today to one thing and one thing only: supporting our London family and the fight against Islamophobia. Before we get into our program, it is important to us to acknowledge the land on which we sit and stand. I would like to welcome up to the stage Amanda Kennedy, Guwasanahawi is Hude Noshone from Oneida Nations, to make a land acknowledgement. Please help me in welcoming Amanda.
Saguli Guwasanahawi ne Youngets. My gifted English name is Amanda Lillian Kennedy. My gifted spirit name is Guwasanahawi, and it means her name they carry. It's truly an honor to be here today to represent the Indigenous community, as I'm a community leader, and just to be here to do an opening grounding. This is something that we do within my culture. Whenever we gather, whether it's a ceremony or an event or a workshop or just a family gathering, we take a minute to honor our connection with Mother Earth and all of creation. So we just take a minute to acknowledge certain areas of the Mother Earth. Sometimes when my elders do it in a language, it can take hours because they'll sit there and acknowledge as much as they can with Mother Nature and creation. So I just ask everyone, one of the first things that we do is just take a deep breath in. Ask everyone to take a deep breath in, breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slowly breathe out. When you take this moment, sometimes we don't take that moment to take this breath, but when we take this moment, we ground ourselves in this time. So please bow your head in humility and respect as we open our hearts, our minds, and our ears, and as we acknowledge Mother Earth, the Indigenous people, their connection to Mother Earth, and to all of you who have gathered here today. Our relationship with Mother Earth is the basis of our root of peacefulness. Our Mother Earth connects us to the beautiful process of creation. Through these words, our minds are gathered to share our thankfulness for what nature provides and acknowledges the ongoing impact that these forces have on human lives. So I'd like to make space and take a moment to acknowledge and give thanks to the land that we stand on, live and thrive off today. I would like to take a minute and take space to take and acknowledge and give thanks to Mother Earth, who continues to take care of us and who continues to provide for us. Together we gather our minds as one and give love and acknowledge my ancestors who fought hard and prayed for us to be here. Together we gather our minds as one and give love and acknowledge all the children who attended Indian residential schools. Together we gather our mind as one and give love and acknowledge to all the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, people, and their families and communities. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and acknowledge all of the community members who we lost through this pandemic. Our language speakers, knowledge keepers, clan mothers, leaders, families, and friends. Together, we gather our minds in one and give love and appreciation to the trees, especially the leader of the tree, the maple tree. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and appreciation to the plants, the medicines, and acknowledging the 4 sacred medicines: sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, and cedar. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and appreciation to the land animals, water animals, and sky animals. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and appreciation to the four seasons. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and appreciation to Brother Sun and Grandmother Moon. Together, we gather our minds as one and give love and appreciation to water, for water is life. I'd like to acknowledge the Thames River and the three nations that connect to that. The Oneida First Nation, the Haudenosaunee people, the Chippewa First Nation, the Anishinaabe people, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, the Lenape people. Together, we gather our minds as one and give appreciation to all those who have organized this and brought us here. And I'd like to just acknowledge the heavy truth that everyone is going to walk today, and just acknowledge that. So again, please take a deep breath in, breathing in, grounding yourself in this moment. We hold it in our hearts, our spirits, and our minds, and slowly breathe out, letting go what we cannot control. Yanko, thank you. I'm going to be returning back to my community, for we're doing some healing work today as well. And we're going to take a moment and just acknowledge all of you that are here today, and acknowledge this harsh truth that you're all walking for today. So Yanko, again, it's truly an honor to be here. Yanko, take care.
Thank you, Amanda, for making these acknowledgements, of the land we stand on and everything within it. Part of our program, we're also going to introduce Imam Abdul Karim, Sekta, the Imam of West Mountain Islamic Center, to open the program with a recitation from the Holy Quran, followed by an English translation by Munia Hadara.
I greet you all in the name of God, the most merciful and the most compassionate. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and peace be with you all. I'll recite verses from the Holy Quran from chapter 1 and 2, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العظيم. جزاكم الله.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, most merciful. All praise is for God, Lord of all worlds, the most compassionate, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us along the straight path, the path of those you have blessed, not those you are displeased with or those who are astray. We will certainly test you with a touch of fear and famine and loss of property, life, and crops. Give good news to those who patiently endure, who, when faced with a disaster, say, "Surely to God we belong, and to him we will all return." They are the ones who will receive God's blessing and mercy, and it is they who are rightly guided.
Thank you, Imam Sakta and Munya, for the beautiful recitation and translation. And thank you, Munya, not only for the translation, but also for the role that you play as a founding member of the Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia. Again, to introduce myself quickly, my name is Yasmin Khattab, and I will be the MC for you for this event, inshallah. We're all gathered here today to remember the members of the Afzaal family who were senselessly murdered in a horrific hate crime that rocked our city to its core. YCCI was founded by some of the closest friends of the late Yumna Afzaal to ensure that violence against Muslims in all of its forms is stamped out of our society for good. This extraordinary gathering we are all bearing witness to today is a testament to the power of youth to positively transform their society by channeling their righteous indignation into a peaceful movement to make their lasting change. Seeing the energy, the creativity, audacity, and courage of these youth gives us all tremendous hope in the bright days ahead of our city after its darkest hour last year. Our hope is that today will be a day of reflection, affirmation, and action. Coming up next to the stage, I would like us to welcome the mayor of our city, Mayor Ed Holder.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum. And peace be upon you all. I'm very honored to be here today, but may I say more importantly how important it is that we are all here today. And I'd like to pay special tribute to our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, for coming here today. Mr. Prime Minister, this is so important that you are here because while in the privilege of my position, I get to acknowledge the love and support of Londoners, you reflect the compassion and the heart and soul of this country. So, Mr. Prime Minister, to you and your colleagues from Parliament who are today, we say shukran, we say thank you to you. And I know we are joined by a number of provincial representatives, especially locally, who had some great success here in their re-election, and other members of provincial parliament. And for them to be here along with our federal members of parliament, that means so much. As it does to have my deputy mayor, your deputy mayor, Josh Morgan, and all of council here today, because we are not just with you in heart and spirit, but we are with you to symbolize what I pray on this solemn occasion to be a new tomorrow. You know, since the evening of June the 6th, I've truly struggled to find the right words, how to properly express on behalf of our city the magnitude of what happened to that beautiful family, our London family, how to properly express the depths of our anger, our sadness, and our sense of loss. Make no mistake, words do matter. They provide comfort. They provide reassurance and encouragement, and perhaps most of all, hope. Ultimately, though, words are not nearly as important or as impactful as action. So what do we do after these speeches end? How do we as a community, as Londoners, support each other? How do we ensure that these words are followed by meaningful action? May I suggest to you that today, this gathering is one such example, and it is powerful. First, I want to commend the young people who organized this march for showing tremendous leadership to all of us. And similarly, I applaud the individuals and workplaces, businesses and institutions for the work that they are doing to make a better London. I am proud of the action taken by our London City Council and our city staff, but our work, both individually and as a community, remains unfinished. So my challenge to all Londoners is, do not allow the progress to be measured only on the anniversary of our city's darkest hour, on some annual basis. Rather, our progress must be measured daily and on a moment-to-moment basis. It demands commitment, individually and collectively. That commitment can come in the form of time spent learning and understanding more about each other. It may require sacrificing comfort by challenging an ignorant remark, be it at the dinner table or on a group text or with some crowd. If we see something, we say something. That is the obligation of a caring community. That is what London is, a caring community, and I honor you for who you are. We will always remember what happened on June the 6th. We must never forget why it happened and to whom it happened. Londoners, let's commit ourselves to building a more compassionate and more loving community so that we may walk together with hearts as pure and souls as peaceful as those of Saman, Afzaal, Bhatia Saman, Afzaal, Talat Afzaal, and our lovely Fayez Afzaal. They are our London family. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Shukran.
Thank you, Mayor Holder. And I just want to take a moment actually to thank the City of London. They have been tremendously supportive of YCCI and this initiative from the get-go. Particularly thank you to Rumina and Patty at the City and all the team behind the scenes that have made today work for us and tomorrow, inshallah. The next speakers need no introduction. These are youth who have been working tirelessly behind the scenes. I invite up to the stage Maryam As-Sabawi, who is a grade 10 student and a good friend of the late Yumna. And I also will invite up with her Isa Islam, who is a grade 9 student and the cousin of Yumna. Please help me in welcoming our YCCI youth.
As much as it is an honor to be speaking up here in front of you all, this is never where I imagined I would be. Last year, I would never be able to understand how all it took was one act of hatred to change my entire life. A life where I now have a gaping wound left in my heart, where my dear cousin Yumna, her grandmother Talat, Auntie Madiha, and Uncle Salman had once been. It feels as if it was only yesterday that I had the warmth of these family members with me. I miss being able to go over to their house and have fun conversations about Harry Potter with Yumna, or always being comforted by my caring aunt and uncle. I miss the simple things, the things we always take for granted until they're gone. In the wake of the attack that took my cousin and her family's lives last year, I was left with a responsibility to ensure that no one would ever have to wake up in the morning to hear that members of their family were murdered the night before solely because of their faith or how they looked. My worst nightmare is having another attack like this happen again, especially in the country that I once found safe. Yet this same country that claims to be a welcoming and inclusive space for everyone still discriminates against Muslims all across Canada, especially through racially biased laws like Bill C-21 in Quebec. I tire of not seeing action. I tire of not seeing action by the politicians that we elect to lead us, hearing them make unfulfilled promises and speak hollow words of sorrow. Do we not remember Bill 86, the Our London Family Act? An act that intended to prevent any future hate-motivated attacks. An act that our leaders promised would make real change by addressing some of the root causes of hate. Yet, as we stand here today, this bill has not been passed, and we still have no commitment from the provincial government to pass it. So, despite all of the promises we heard last year, 1 year later, it feels there's still an unwillingness by our elected leaders to take concrete action against hate and Islamophobia. To all those elected leaders that show their support through their words, know that words can only bandage a wound temporarily. Only actions can help our community truly heal and move forward. So today, my message to you is that while you may take your first action to fight against hate on this march, you cannot let them be your last. These may be our first steps, but only through continuous action will our leaders be forced to listen and act for our desire for a brighter future. A future without hate. A future where we can go for a walk without the fear of being killed. A future where no one will have to wake up to the news of their family not being able to come home because of their beliefs or how they look. A future where we will all be free. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you all.
Dearest Yumna, I miss you. I miss having lunch with you. I miss the pep talks you would give me. I miss going to the mall with you. I miss talking about our plans for the future. I just miss you. Your presence, the sound of your laughter, the stories you would tell me, and the 3 a.m. texts about the most random things. A year has passed, and yet somehow I feel as though time has stood still. I have been consumed by the thought of what you used to be, what you could have been, and what you are. Night after night, I've awoken to the same dream. You being run over as you walk home with your beautiful family. I wake up in sweats thinking, don't worry, it's only a dream, but it's not. The grief is overwhelming. So much so that at times I'm no longer recognizable to those who love me. And at times, not even recognizable to myself. I have trouble answering my 7-year-old sister's questions about why Yumna was killed or why she will never come over to our house again. She often tells me that she is certain that if he knew you, he would have loved you. He may have even wanted to be your friend. Remember when we were that naive? I know that I am not alone in my pain. Many others feel the same way. Even those that were never touched by your love were somehow touched by your loss. Sleepless nights, fear of trucks, and an inability to go for walks has caused me to reflect on what was actually taken from us on June 6th. We didn't just lose you and your beautiful family, but we lost our sense of belonging, our sense of community, our sense of safety, our sense of self. We even lost our innocence. The world isn't as kind as we had believed it to be. All of it taken because of hate that was left unchecked. Hate that was given endless opportunities to grow. Hate that was carefully incubated through silence. The silence that happens when people witness hate but never challenge it. The silence that happens when politicians offer big words, and little actions. The silence that happens when people refuse to question their own biases or refuse to look inwardly and ask, what if I am part of the problem? Instead of feeling helpless, we decided to shatter that silence. We decided to raise our voices so that everyone could hear us. We decided to fulfill our promise to you. We started the Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia for all those who are tired of feeling broken, lost, and helpless. The world placed a responsibility on our shoulders that would have crushed a mountain, but we will carry it because others haven't. We will carry it because if we don't, it seems as though no one else will. We will carry it so that no one else has to experience the pain that we have. We will carry it for you, Yumna. We have worked tirelessly to create a documentary and an educational package about Islamophobia. It is our hope that educators across Canada will use these resources to facilitate important conversations to change the narrative. It is our hope that our politicians will put politics aside and put people first. Yumna, through our work, we have been able to write a different story, one that centers strength, compassion, and agency. In our story, we do not allow hate to be the lens in which we see the world. In our story, we do not allow hate to be the lens in which the world sees us. Now, to my Muslim sisters who bear the brunt of Islamophobia every single day, we love you. You are courageous, you are powerful, you are beautiful. And no hate will ever diminish your worth. Wear your hijabs with pride. Finally, to our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, I turned 16 this year. You have 2 years to earn my vote.
No, please keep it going. You have no idea. Takbir. 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 This is our future, inshallah. This is our future, God willing. Incredible. Thank you, Maryam and Isa. We are so proud of you both. And next time, we're just going to give you the stage. Our next speaker is a leading Muslim Canadian philanthropist known for his humanitarian work and his deep commitment to making Canada an inclusive and welcoming home to immigrants and refugees. He has been named Canada's most admired CEO and was recently appointed to the Order of Canada. Please join me in welcoming Mohammed Faqih, CEO of Paramount Fine Foods.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know how they put me to speak after Miriam. It'll be very difficult to do that. I can hardly believe it has been a year since the tragic murders of last June 6th. A year which has not seen enough change when it comes to combating hatred, racism, and Islamophobia. We all worry that not enough is being done because no matter who you are, if you are a Muslim, you are a target. Like so many, I've been harassed in public. I've been attacked. Myself and my family have been followed in a shopping center. I've had to defend myself. I had to take legal action against the haters to make them stop and also pay a price for their disgusting and dangerous hate. And yet, it continues for us all. Last June, our leader came together. They attended the vigil. They said all the right things. I know what Muslims across the province appreciated that. But then what happened? Not enough. More needs to be done. There is no shortage of concrete ideas on what needs to happen. Confronting hate, taking a stand, making a real statement calls for a consistent approach every single day. That's the truth of our government, and it's so true for us all. It is what's required in order to be consistent with the principle and ideals of our great country. And what we need as a community and as a country is to come together, not only to condemn hate, but to do much more to prevent it, to punish it, and to better protect those who are targets. Hate isn't abstract. It's not theoretical. Hate has consequences. It can alter the course of a life or end it. We cannot allow the space for hate to grow. We can't change every mind. We can't root out every racist. But there are things that we can all do. I know that hate grows in silence and feeds on indifference. Many people told me not to go ahead with my legal action against haters. Including my family, they were scared that we didn't have enough support. To those in position of authority and influence, I thank you for being here. and for being an ally for our community. I also say to you, please do more. You need to truly understand what's at stake here. Lives are at stake. Families are. Futures are. The very foundation of our country, Canada, is at stake. There are intolerant people in our country who hate from their bones. They are becoming louder and bolder. So it's no longer enough to be a good person only in our hearts. We must declare it in our words. We must show it in our actions. In a dark time, the world needs more light. It needs good people who are willing to do good things. To those who seek a better Canada, I urge you, do not give up. Let's work together. Let's stand together. Let's shout it from the rooftop. Hate will never win in our country. And to those with the authority and the ability to make a positive difference, I say, words alone are not enough to stop hate. There are over 1 million Muslims in our country that feel unsafe. We need good people to be on our side. You are good people. Now go out into the world and let's all do the right thing and fight Islamophobia. Thank you so much. I almost forgot to introduce someone that's very dear to my heart that you all know as Raptor superfan. And I know him as my very, very good friend, Nav Bhatia. Please help me and welcome Nav Bhatia, superfan for Raptors, to the stage. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank all the organizers for having me here today. But I want to really thank, a special thank to all these volunteers, the youth wearing the Raptors purple, my favorite color in the world. I really want to thank them, and I want you to join me giving them a big cheer. Yes, you can do that. I think you can do a little better than that. They put up an amazing event. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. On the way, when I was coming here to London today, I was filled with many thoughts, just like each one of you. A year later, we are wondering if this could have really happened in my Canada, in our Canada. Many of us still live with anger, fear, and frustration. Today, I look at you with so many beautiful people from different backgrounds right here to support, give love and respect to this beautiful family. And also, we are here together to show the support to Muslim community. Yes. This is the hope that I see. Hope that the process of healing continues. Hope that we begin embracing our neighbors. Today is for Talat, Madai, Yamna, and Salman. Today, they are not just the symbol of grief, but they are the symbol of hope. I've been in this beautiful country for 38 years. I had a lot of speed bumps in this country. But let's not. One man filled with hate cannot destroy the message of love this family was put on earth to deliver. Every person here today is a testament of that. Love will always conquer hate. London, you have shown me here today that you are the leaders in the battle against hate in this country. I am humbled to be standing with you. Our faith, the way we look, what we wear on our head, our differences should never divide us. Our differences actually are our superpowers. Embrace them. I would also like you to join me in giving this message. The young Faiz, who survived, is here somewhere today. And I want you to join me in giving this message to him. Faiz, you are my superhero. Yes, give him a big... Yes, I keep on saying every time, our differences are our superpower. And diversity is our strength. Right, diversity is our strength, guys. You can give a big hand on that. Stand tall and be proud of them. Together, we can build a beautiful society and continue to make Canada a heaven on earth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nav, our super fan. Not only a champion of sports, but a champion of inclusivity and diversity, and we're honored for him to be our representative here in Canada. Before I move on to our next speaker, I just want to also mention that to my left, there is seating for the elderly. If anybody has physical disability, we have extra seating in front of the stage to my left. Please make your way there. It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker. The Imam, Dr. Omar Suleiman, is a world-renowned scholar and theological-driven activist for human rights. You know, he is the founder and president of the Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research and an adjunct professor of Islamic Studies in the Graduate Liberal Studies program at Southern Methodist University. He is also the resident scholar of the Valley Ranch Islamic Center and co-chair emeritus of Faith Forward Dallas at Thanksgiving Square, a multi-faith coalition of clergy for peace and justice. In addition to being recognized by CNN as one of the 25 Muslim American changemakers, Dr. Suleiman is included in the Muslim 500, an annual ranking of the world's most influential Muslims compiled by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center. In 2019, the Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center at American University and Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives recognized Dr. Suleiman among 200 honorees who embody the legacy of the abolitionist commitment to social justice. MashaAllah. Please welcome with me Imam Dr. Omar Suleiman.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم. Dear brothers and sisters and supporters, I wanted to begin with these few verses because they were the first verses that came to my heart and mind when I was sitting in my home in Texas trying to figure out how to get here last year when this tragedy unfolded. And I watched at the time the relatives of the Afzaal family talk about how they hoped that they were in a better place. And they hoped that they were received by better hosts. And the verses that I just recited, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Those who say that our Lord is one, our Lord is Allah, and they remain firm. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, that at the time of death the angels descend upon them and say to them, do not be afraid, do not grieve. Do not be afraid, do not grieve. Do not be afraid, do not grieve. And receive the glad tidings of the paradise that you have been promised. We were your friends in this life and in the hereafter. And you will have all that has been guaranteed to you from a Lord that is forgiving and merciful. Before we speak about anything else, I just want us to, of course, constantly come back to the fact that this is an event for the Afzaal family, that we're here for them. Our 4 martyrs that have passed away, our London family. I am here at their request, and I'm honored by the request to join today. And we say first and foremost to young Faiz that we are your family. Everybody here is your family. Everybody here wearing a shirt, holding up a sign, here to march, here to pray. We are your family. And as I told him, backstage, and he's my son's age, I looked at him and I couldn't help but notice right away that I can't wait to see the superhero that you become, so we can all follow your lead. And then to those 2 speeches that were just given, all I could say is, I did not want to speak after you. What amazing courage that you both displayed. What amazing human beings you are. And you did the relatives that you love so much proud today in the way that you represented them. May Allah bless you both and bless the entire family that's here. Dear brothers and sisters, I live in Texas. I'm from Louisiana, originally from Palestine. And in Texas, we are known as the capital of Islamophobia in the United States of America. We're also the capital of mass shootings in the United States of America. And I want to actually bring us back to what bonded us in this devastating cycle that we continue to see unfold in front of our eyes of Islamophobia. January 2017, we were in the airport in Dallas, Texas. I'm sure many of you saw the images of thousands of people that had gathered in solidarity as we had the largest number of detainees under the freshly announced Muslim ban under then President Donald Trump. And when we came together in that airport, it was very similar to this. Beautiful moments of solidarity. When it came time for prayer, our allies chanted, "You pray, we stay." And they held that area down. And in an era of misinformation, a Twitter account, which I will not mention today, tweeted that Muslims had taken over the airport. And people had come to the airport armed in fear of Muslims taking over the airport. We didn't leave the airport until every one of those that were detained was able to leave. But then just a couple of weeks later, maybe not even, we heard of the terrible terrorist attack in Quebec, where 6 men, husbands, fathers, were murdered in a senseless act of terror in their place of worship. And we talk about how people should be able to be safe in the streets, and they should especially be able to be safe in their places of worship and in their schools and on their Sunday walks. Our Sikh brothers and sisters should be able to go to their temple in Madison and be able to walk freely in Canada and not have to worry about being targeted by anyone. People should be able to go to a church in Charleston. People should be able to go to a synagogue in Pittsburgh. People should be able to go to any place of worship and at least find safety there, right? And then the details started to come out. And that young man, filled with hate, who should not see the light of day because he took the lives of 6 men that will not see the light of day in this world again, was inspired, and I use the word inspired in quotation marks, inspired by the rhetoric that he heard from the United States of America. And he was afraid, he said, that Syrian refugees that were now going to be turned away from the United States of America would come to Canada. And he wanted to send a message to the Muslim community that you are not welcome here. He was a young man in his early 20s whose name is not worth mentioning. But what filled him with that hate? What made him see you as a demographic threat? Not so long after, Christchurch, New Zealand. And I want you to understand something, that in Texas, we had become accustomed to armed white supremacist groups in front of our mosques on a weekly basis with AR-15s, openly chanting that they were waiting for the moment to rid this earth of us. My 9-year-old daughter, at the time 6-year-old son, grew up with those signs. I can't take that away from them. I have to help them contextualize that and be activated by that. Those of you that are parents, you can't take away what they have seen and the extension of that trauma. None so that would be greater than that which is with the immediate family. You have to help them contextualize it, and they can't make sense of what doesn't make sense. They can't rationalize the irrational, but they can be activated against it and refuse to cease existing as American Muslims or as Canadian Muslims, with a capital A and a capital M and a capital C and a capital M. And in Christchurch, New Zealand, the nightmares that we had in Texas materialized in a place that it was never supposed to happen. I remember going to Christchurch and being able to be with those families and putting 50 people in the ground. 50 people. Never in my life had I prayed janazah, had I prayed the funeral prayer on that many people in a community that was absolutely devastated. Strong, resilient, but hurt. 50 people in a single mosque, in 2 masjids, in a single community, a small community that was supposed to be safe, in Christchurch. And I wondered why. And once again, a terrorist who saw the Muslim community as a demographic threat, inspired by the hatred and the rhetoric that was coming from my country. And you want to know the hardest thing about that? As I was speaking to Abu Ata, who survived, who lost his son, he said, not many people know this, but after he finished with the 2 mosques, he was headed to a Muslim daycare. Think about that for a moment. And if you're sick, I want you to be sick, because I was sickened when I heard it. A daycare? A daycare. Because those children would grow up to be Muslims, and by being a Muslim, you are a threat. Dear brothers and sisters, our community has shown time and time again that we are not a threat, that we are not leaving, and that we will not relinquish a single part of our Islam or our Muslimness or anything else that makes someone else feel uncomfortable because of the irrational hatred that they have been fed. The Afzaal family was not a threat. Those beautiful people in Christchurch were not a threat. Our 3 winners were not a threat. The countless victims here and abroad were not threats. They were beautiful people. But here's what we must come back with. You know, usually the grieving families do not speak about action, but this family is different. They are charging us to act. We live in a world where we have become accustomed to memorializing, to symbols, to waiting after the fact to act or say that we will act. Islamophobia is a problem on you. We ask of you to take a stand against the dehumanization of Muslims worldwide. When we talk about great replacement theory, the Palestinian people are living great replacement theory. They are treated like a demographic threat every single day. And as time goes on and as the world wakes up to that brutality and that dehumanization of Muslims, as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty come together and join the global human rights consensus that this is an apartheid reality, as Muslims are targeted in France and interned in China, as Muslims are put in harm's way under a fascist government in India, this is a time of courage. We need courageous action from our leaders. We appreciate your solidarity with the Canadian Muslim community. We hope that you will hear our hearts as fathers, as mothers, as brothers and sisters, and take action against the global narrative that continues to dehumanize the Muslim community and treat the Muslim community like a demographic threat. Thank you all very much. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
What an absolute honor and pleasure it is to have you with us, Dr. Omar Suleiman. I was just quickly telling him before he came up that when I used to live in Texas, when things happened there, I used to Google selfishly how far away it was from me. And then I moved back to Canada and there was a sigh of relief. No open gun laws here, no open carry. 6 months, just 6 months after I was here, this incident happened in our community. And when I Googled, it was only 3 minutes away. I didn't know if I was still in Texas or I was back in Canada, but we know for sure that this is everywhere and it must be addressed. Jazakallahu khairan, again, for being with us. I want to welcome to the stage, I apologize, folks, I really do. I don't want it to start pouring on you, so we're going through this as best as we can, and I apologize to my speakers as well. But I appreciate your time and I appreciate your strength and your courage and your patience and humility for being with us here today. It is genuinely an honor to have you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce Brother Nawaz Tahir. He's a lawyer in our community, but he also sits on the Hikmah Public Affairs Council. If you could please help me welcome Nawaz Tahir.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Today, I stand on stage really in awe of our youth. I can't even begin to process the raw emotion and trauma when you say on a Friday afternoon to one of your classmates, "See you Monday." Only on Monday morning, she's not there. And her desk is and remains empty. But look at how our youth have responded. You've heard it today. The energy, the passion, the burning desire to be agents of positive change. And it should make us self-reflect on what we can do at all levels of government to help them. I want to thank the City of London, Mayor Ed Holder, City Council, City Manager Lynn Livingston, Ramina Morris, the Director of Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression, for consulting with the Muslim community. And through those consultations, co-designing a comprehensive, one of the most comprehensive anti-Islamophobia plans of any city in North America. Provincially, there's nothing left to be said other than it's time to pass the Our London Family Act. And if I can borrow a phrase that we've heard for the last few weeks, Premier Ford, it's time to get it done. Federally, things are in motion, but there's a lot of work to be done. We still don't have a defined hate crime in Canada's criminal code. Across the country, Muslims have been forced to retain our own lawyers to fight state-sponsored Islamophobia. Be it in Quebec with Bill 21, be it with the Canada Revenue Agency in a clear example of discrimination against Muslim charities. To the Prime Minister Trudeau, I say to you, thank you for being here today. Thank you for meeting with our youth today. Thank you for listening to them today. I hope that they have inspired you and empowered you the same way they inspire me and empower me in our community. And I say to all of you, I hope that in hearing our youth today, they've empowered you, they've inspired you, and they have motivated you to do everything in your power to hold our elected officials accountable, and that they have inspired you to hand over to them a world that is better, more inclusive, and safer than the world that was given to us. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Nawaz. Our next speaker, name has already been mentioned several times. Without further ado, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
Assalamu alaikum. Bonjour à tous. Hello, everyone. Mayor Holder, Mohammed Faki, Nav, Dr. Suleiman, for your incredible words. Young leaders from the YCCI, thank you for your words, and mostly thank you for your continued action and support for the London community. It was extremely important for me to be here today on this extremely difficult day for the families, for the Muslim community in London, but also for Muslims across Canada and indeed all Canadians. This is one of those days where, as I heard from the young people earlier, a number of people were saying, how could this happen in Canada? And racialized Canadians, Muslim Canadians, Canadians of diverse intersectionalities and backgrounds nodded and said, yeah, unfortunately, this can happen in Canada. Because even as, and Omar alluded to this, a lot of us pat ourselves on the back for not being as challenging as the United States is on a day-to-day basis. There's no reason for us to be complacent in Canada. There's no reason for us to turn our backs on the lived reality of millions of Canadians who live with microaggression and discrimination and systemic racism every single day. And on this day that we grieve, we also come together in commitment and resolve to make sure that tomorrow and next year and all the days in the future are also better. So I'm glad to be here today, accompanied by members of our Liberal team who commit themselves every single day to fighting for you, to fighting for London, to making it a better world. Omar, Salma, Ariel, and Peter. We are gathered to honor the victims of this horrible tragedy. The lives of 3 generations of Afzaal family were taken by a brutal, cowardly, and brazen act of terrorist violence. Talat, Salman, Madia, and Yumna, we remember them. Yumna was a student here at the Oak Ridge Secondary School. Some of you were her classmates, and I know that you miss her deeply. Today, of course, we also think of Faiz, who turned 10 this year. We talked about him earlier when I had the opportunity to speak with family members, and I feel incredibly privileged and touched to have been able to hear his words in a note on this extremely difficult day. There is no word to describe the courage of this young boy whose life has been changed forever, but I know that even through unimaginable loss and grief, he will grow to be extraordinarily strong because of the incredible love this community and indeed all of Canada has for him. Les valeurs fondamentales de paix, de compassion et de charité sont au cœur de l'islam et sont aussi au cœur de la communauté ici à London. Ces valeurs étaient importantes pour la famille Afzaal, qui était toujours prête à être généreuse avec ses proches. A year ago, when the Afzaal family went out for an evening walk, like so many of us do on warm Sundays, they were targeted because of their faith and because of their culture. This killing was no accident. It was a terrorist attack motivated by hatred. Islamophobia is real. I've heard from community members across the country. Just had the opportunity to meet with members of the Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia. It is unacceptable that people feel unsafe in their place of worship or at work, or in this case, going for a walk as a family. People should be free to wear their traditional clothes and articles of faith without fear. Of course, even the Prime Minister saying that doesn't make it so, does it? But there's nothing I can say here today that'll remove that fear. So Isa and Miriam spoke very strongly about the need for action and not just words. Yes, absolutely. We need to be there to clearly say that this is unacceptable, that this is wrong. That Canada is a place of openness and respect, that it's always defined us despite our shortcomings and our failures. And we need to commit ourselves verbally to do more every single day, but we also need to act. And that's why it is such a strong message to see so many of you out here today for this commemoration, this walk. Why so many of you are continuing to demand that governments, municipal, provincial, federal, continue to step up with more action. And yes, there is much more to do, but we have taken action, and we will continue to. Our government invested in the launch of a new anti-racism strategy and a national action plan to combat hate, which includes funding to the tune of millions of dollars, grassroots organizations, many of them Muslim, focused on fighting racism, intolerance, Islamophobia in communities across the country.
We're also launching a process to appoint Canada's very first special representative on combating Islamophobia. And we're establishing an expert panel to advise on how to have a digital society that would create safe and respectful places online while promoting Canada's freedom of expression and combating hateful content online. And that's hugely important. Because, yes, there are, when I think of Quebec City and London a year ago, there are a couple of young men who will hopefully never again see the light of day from inside their prison cells. But they didn't act alone. They were encouraged. They were taught to hate through what they saw online. They heard messages designed to polarize, to frighten, to shape a narrative of chaos and hate within communities where the vast, vast majority of Canadians are open and respectful and loving. For generations, people of every imaginable background have come here, built communities, and made this country so much better and richer than it ever could have imagined to be. That is the story of Canada, a place where everyone brings their identity, their culture, their language, their depth and history, and add it to Canada. Make richer the lives of their neighbors, of their communities, with everything they bring. And we do that here in Canada better than just about any other country in the world. Where a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, no matter what your background or your story. But as Omar pointed out, even in Canada, even in New Zealand, even in places that do diversity well, where people are good and respectful and nice to one another, it doesn't take much. It takes one person. And all of us are left wondering what we can do. What we can do not just to protect each other, but to be there for each other and include each other and reach out to say, we are all with you. We are all Muslims in Canada. We are all Afzaal family members in Canada. And to stand strongly against those for whom us celebrating diversity, welcoming in differences, is somehow a threat or undermines what Canada is. That narrative is strong out there. But so is the counter-narrative. So are all of you, so are all of us. I want to pause for a moment to do something that might seem on the face of it slightly unpopular, given the passionate speeches we heard earlier. I want to pause in a defense of words. Words matter. And yes, the words by politicians offering thoughts and prayers after a grief matter a little bit. The politicians' actions matter more, but words continue to matter. Words of comfort and solace, offered to grieving families. Words of support. Words of people saying, not in the Canada we want to build. Just as negative words matter. Twisted rants on the internet and in social media filled with misinformation, disinformation, designed to undermine people's confidence in their neighbors, in their society. Designed to turn us one against the other. Those are words. And they can lead to terrible, terrible consequences, as we all know all too well. But the words that counter that hatred, words of presence, of comfort, words of facts fighting disinformation, words to a coworker, as Ed said, that says something unthinkingly harmful. Words heard around the dinner table that need to be responded to with stronger words. We are in a society, we are a world that communicates with words. And each of us wields the responsibility to speak up when we hear something that betrays a misunderstanding of the core values and the core direction that Canada needs to take of openness, respect. And can I pause for a second saying, let's not ask for tolerance. There are places in the world where a little tolerance would go a long way, but can we get beyond that in Canada? There's not a religion in the world that tells us to tolerate your neighbor. Think about it. I tolerate you. That means I accept you have the right to live, but just don't get too much in my face or come date my daughter. Tolerate. We need to talk about acceptance. We need to talk about love. We need to talk about friendship and understanding. So let's go beyond tolerance. And words matter because they lead to actions. Actions like all of you mobilizing today. Actions like what these young people are doing. Shaking up the system and challenging their leaders with, yes, very strong words that do matter. And then actions matter. All of you coming here. All of you choosing to get out and make your voices heard and show with actions that you're behind that. And yes, Miriam, voting matters. And we just came through an Ontario election where the voter turnout was lower than it's been in a long time. And that matters. Because that's where the action by individual Canadians is not actually having the impact that it needs to. Because too many are choosing not to act. We have one of the most incredible countries in the world, but it didn't happen by accident, and it will not continue without effort. And for all I can do as Prime Minister, I can't do it alone. It takes Canadians, millions upon millions of Canadians making a choice to step up as allies, as friends, as community members, saying, no, we are going to speak up and stand up for a better today and a better tomorrow. La tragédie de l'année passée nous a tous choqués, elle nous a tous marqués. Et un an plus tard, l'absence de Talat, Salman, Bhatia et de Yumna continue de laisser un vide. The community here is incredibly strong. And I want you to know that Canadians everywhere are with you. Because Islamophobia is not simply an attack on Muslims, it's an attack on all Canadians. And over the past few years, through this pandemic, and now we've seen a rise in Islamophobia, in anti-Semitism, in anti-Asian hatred, in anti-Black racism, in intolerance and hatred all throughout our world and our society. And it takes all of us to stand up and say to each other, you are not alone, and together we will find our way forward. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. May peace and blessing be upon you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Trudeau. We appreciate you coming, listening, and sitting with our youth. It is our understanding that we will have a meeting in 6 months with our youth in Ottawa, so we greatly appreciate that invitation, and we will certainly take you up on it. Please help me in welcoming our next speaker, Imam Abdul Fattah Tawakkul, and the Imams Council of London.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you all. We've heard so many words of inspiration. We've heard our youth speak empowering words that really give us hope. As I stand here today with my fellow Imams from the London Council of Imams, and I speak to you on behalf of the London Muslim community, we cannot change that one singular act of hatred that took place 1 year ago just down the road from here. But what we can change, and we must change, the attitudes, the hatred, the discrimination that still exists within our society that leads to these acts of hatred. We don't have a choice in the matter. 1 year later, we need to consider how far have we moved the needle from where we were at to where we are today, and more importantly, where are we going to go from here? Because this is a constant journey. This is something that we have to consistently do. Today is a day of reflection within ourselves. What have I done as an individual? What have I done as a politician? What have I done as a community member in order to uproot Islamophobia, to uproot hatred, to eliminate discrimination? What have I done? That is for every single one of us to reflect upon and to think about. Because as Imams and as Muslims within this community, as was mentioned by Imam Umar, we do not serve as a threat to you, but rather we serve God through service to humanity. That is who we are as Muslims. That we're here to serve the greater good for all people. And that means that we all need to do our part collectively to remove all of these evils that exist within ourselves and in our societies. Change must happen inwardly, outwardly, privately, publicly, individually, collectively. Change must happen. In a few moments' time, we're going to be marching from Oak Ridge Secondary School, where our beloved Yumna Afzaal attended, and we will be marching to the London Muslim Mosque, where her father, Salman, her mother, Madiha, her grandmother, Talat, that they all attended and where her brother to this day still goes to the school. This march means that we cannot remain at a standstill. We have to continue walking. We have to continue marching to uproot Islamophobia and the various forms of hatred and discrimination that exist within our society. Because we don't describe or define Islamophobia simply based on words, the hatred, the fear, the dislike of Muslims. But we define it based on our experiences, the day-to-day experiences that you heard from our youth, from our brothers, from our sisters on a daily basis. That we define it based on our experience, and it's still happening. And it needs to stop. And the only way that we can stop this and any other form of discrimination is together. We march together to keep going. And we need to do this together. We don't have a choice in the matter. Do your part. I want to thank every single one of you for coming out today, because this is the London, the beautiful city of London, Ontario, Canada, that we have come to know. And this is the beautiful city of London, Ontario, Canada, for which within our hearts love shall continue to grow. It is with great pleasure and honor that I introduce our next speaker, who will be coming to speak on representing various faith leaders within our community, and we will stand with them. It is my honor to call Reverend Canon Kevin George of St. Aidan's Anglican Church, along with other representatives of various faith communities within London, Ontario, to address us. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm joined here today on the stage by Rabbi Deborah Dressler from Temple Israel, from Savinder Dohill, who is with the Guru Nanak Society, Prab Gill from the Sikh Cultural Center, Lieutenant Commander Catherine Ann George, Senior Naval Reserve Chaplain for the Royal Canadian Navy, and Director of Mission and Ministry at Brescia University, Dr. Seppi Tahiri from the Baha'i community, and of course by all of my Muslim friends and imams on this stage. I cannot believe, as I look out upon you, that we are back here with the same intensity and the same desire to continue to say, we must stomp out this hate. I am so impressed by the young people who have organized this event for us. And I pray we take their words seriously and act upon them. All of our faith traditions call for love, for justice, for peace, for a world in which the dignity of every human being is upheld. In the Mishnah, Avot 2:21, we have the invocation said to us that it is not incumbent upon you to finish the task, neither though are you free to desist from it. So we must act. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, reminds us, unto every one of you we have given a different law and a different way of life. And if God had so willed, he could have made you all one single community. Medea 48. This makes it absolutely clear, my siblings, that different religions are a part of the divine plan. The diversity and the goodwill of the people of this community are not a challenge, but a gift from the Almighty. Mother Teresa said, I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot. Together, we can do great things. I want today to be yet again another day for us to uphold the unity of the spirit of love over hate. And Prime Minister, yes, words matter. Your words matter. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. I am grateful to you, Prime Minister, for being here to speak those words. And that means in your workplace, when someone asks you if Bill 21 is racist and Islamophobic, the answer is yes. It's yes. So may God be with us all as we march today. We march for love, we march for peace, and we march in unity for freedom for all people in this city and in this country. God bless you all. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you to our faith leaders of London, Imam Tawakkul and the Imam's Council, as well as Reverend George, and all Interfaith. We greatly appreciate your presence and your allyship. Joining us next on stage is Amira Al-Ghawabi, a leading voice on human rights in Canada. Amira is the Strategic Communications and Campaigns Lead at the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. And she is also a contributing columnist with the Toronto Star. Please help me in welcoming Amira Al-Ghawabi.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you today. We cannot look at the beautiful pictures of Yumna, Salman, Talat, and Mediha and not feel as though we are looking at a member of our own family, a neighbor, a friend. Not only are we devastated, but some of us are still understandably frustrated and struggling. Why? Because this horrific attack was predictable. And sadly, attacks on Muslims in Canada go on with no clear end in sight, because discrimination and Islamophobia continue to be a reality for far too many of us. And these attacks do not happen in a vacuum. They are the result of the vilification of our communities over years and the erosion of our human rights. Even before Yumna was born, a generation of Canadian Muslim youth had grown up in a society in which they, their families, their friends were too often the subject of unwarranted suspicion and ignorant fear, as we've heard today. It has taken repeated deadly attacks on our communities for people across this country to just begin to listen, to just begin to understand the full extent of Islamophobia and its potential consequences on our lives. Hate against our communities has only metastasized, fueled in online communities that are bent on scapegoating outgroups, those perceived as other. 1 in 4 Canadians don't trust Muslims in Canada. 1 in 3 Canadians say they are worried about the number of Muslims coming to this country. And 27% of Canadians say that hijabs like what I'm wearing today should be banned. In Quebec, as we have heard, Bill 21 means that religious minorities, especially Quebec Muslim women, are in the crosshairs of the attacks on our human rights. And make no mistake, there is a connection between such policies and hate crimes and violence against our communities. Visibly Muslim women are among the most frequent victims of hate crimes in Canada. Women and girls like Yumna, like Madiha, like Talat. It is often said that hate crimes are message crimes. But today, we have a message of our own. And it is our youth who are at the forefront of sending it. We all have a right to walk these streets. We all have a right to practice our faith. We all have a right to feel safe and live free of discrimination, and we help build this country alongside so many other communities who also deserve to live in peace and in dignity. Our mosques are full again. Our children, they're there, and they're smiling, and they are praying, and they are learning. Women and girls, you're still wearing your hijab with pride and with courage. But don't think that Canada has done all it can. Canadians can and must do better, and will be right here, demanding our full rights, because this is Canada's unfulfilled promise to so many people, and together we will hold Canada to that promise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amira. Next up is the Director of Education at Thames Valley District School Board. Just for folks, actually before I get into that, I apologize. I'm going to let you know we have about 10 minutes left in our program, and then we're going to start the march. The significance of us being here today at this school is because this was the high school of Yumna Afzaal. And it's amazing to have the leadership that we do in TVDSB to inspire our youth to learn about racism and Islamophobia in all of its forms. And Mark Fisher, our next speaker, has been fundamental and so critical in pushing that forward within our education system. We are tremendously grateful for him and all that he has done for our community and for YCCI. So please help me welcome Mark Fisher.
Good afternoon and welcome. Today we gather as a community, a city, and a country to remember a solemn day in London's history. 1 year ago, on June 6th, a despicable act of terrorism ended the lives of Salman, Madiha, Talat, and Yumna Afzaal. This deplorable act left young Fayez without his beloved family. It caused lasting harm to our Muslim community, to the family's friends and loved ones, and to our city and nation as a whole. The Afzaals will forever be our London family. Yumna was a valued member of the Thames Valley District School Board community. She was a high-achieving student right here at Oak Ridge Secondary School. She dreamed of owning her own business and giving back to the community. She was admired by her peers for her positive outlook, sparkling personality, and was just 15 at the time of the attack. We all have a duty to combat hate, racism, and prejudice in all its forms. And I personally believe that educational institutions are uniquely positioned to be at the forefront of these efforts. Through a combination of curricular and educational initiatives, we have committed to engaging not only in symbolic efforts to combat hate and prejudice, but we are resolute in our commitment to performing the substantive work that is required to make meaningful change. Tomorrow, Thames Valley will honor Yumna and her family's memory in every one of our schools as we renew our ongoing commitment to fighting Islamophobia, racism, and discrimination. We will follow the lead of our community partners and implement several important actions. All flags across Thames Valley will be lowered and remain at half-mast for all of June 6th. All school signs will reflect a message of support for our London family. All Thames Valley schools will participate in a 15-minute Finish the Walk in recognition of the Afzaal family and the walk they could not finish last year. This walk will be a time for us to reflect, honor, and bring attention to the issue of Islamophobia in our communities. Staff and students will take part in a moment of silence to honor the family, and we encourage everyone to wear Yumna's favorite colors of purple and green. We have also shared classroom materials commemorating the events of June the 6th with staff, and students have encouraged age-appropriate discussions and conversations about this attack. I know that combating Islamophobia does not begin or end on June the 6th. Over the past year, our board has committed to taking action and increasing understanding of anti-Islamophobia practices. For example, we have established a student support group for Muslim students, provided classroom presentations on countering Islamophobia and anti-Muslim racism. Our Muslim students have shared their voice through town halls and an iftar organized in partnership with the National Council of Canadian Muslims and the Muslim Resource Center for Social Support and Integration. For Thames Valley staff, we have provided learning opportunities related to trauma-informed anti-Islamophobia. We have also worked with our community organizations and Muslim staff members to develop school and educator resource guides related to Islamic History Month and Ramadan. Let me be clear, hate has no place in our schools and no place in our community. As a school board, we respect and stand in solidarity with all our Muslim families. Together, we will continue to promote equity and understanding in our schools and community at large. Our thoughts are with the Afzaal family, their loved ones, and with everyone that's here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm going to ask our final speaker, Brother Nabil Sultan, to come to the stage. He is the chairman of the Muslim Association of Canada.
Assalamu alaikum. My dear brothers and sisters, I've been asked to speak to you about today systemic Islamophobia. There is a different type of pain when the source of Islamophobia comes from people in authority, from people who, instead of serving us, target us. Whether it's a CSIS officer targeting a Muslim student on campus, or a CBSA official profiling and rejecting a Muslim refugee, or as we've heard many times, Bill 21 in Quebec that prevents Muslim women from becoming teachers or doctors, systemic Islamophobia marginalizes and undermines the Muslim community across the country. An important example is the CRA. There were 2 independent reports last year that detailed the discrimination of the CRA against Muslim charities. The behavior is very disturbing, and I want to explain it very briefly. Muslim charities in this country are targeted often on unreasonable grounds. And Muslim charities are audited by a division of the CRA called RAD. RAD was established years ago by the government to investigate terrorism financing. But because Islam and terrorism still go hand in hand for many people in government, RAD was empowered to target Muslim charities. I want you to consider this. Muslim charities represent less than 1% of all charities in this country, yet they represent 75% of charities that were revoked by RAD. And for those charities that weren't revoked, they are given heavy penalties and fines that bring them to their knees, and the Muslim community is left paying the price. The result of this is that Muslim charities have to use their hard-earned donations and their human resources to deal with these audits and their consequences, rather than spend them on serving the people and the communities that they are responsible for. It is for this reason that the Muslim Association of Canada, MAC, launched a charter challenge in the Ontario Supreme Court to defend the rights and freedoms of Muslims in this country and to defend against this discrimination by the CRA. We've launched this charter challenge on behalf of the Muslim community and on behalf of the many Muslim organizations who continue to be targeted by the CRA. We launched this charter challenge because we as Muslims, and indeed we as Canadians, must stand for our rights and fight against injustice. We must continue, as we have done today, in the presence of our Prime Minister and in the presence of all of our politicians, ask our politicians to enact reform, to end systemic discrimination and systemic Islamophobia. We seek our strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we seek our strength from you and our allies here today. We, with that strength, will continue this fight until Muslims in this country are treated like any other Canadian. We ask for nothing more and we will accept nothing less. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a spoken word poem that I would like to share with you all today. A letter inspired by Rudy Francisco. When Michael Lewis killed 4 people at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he did this alone. We did not question his race. When Salvador Ramos shot 19 children and 2 teachers dead at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, we did not question his religion. When the KKK marched through Charlottesville, they were never asked to strip themselves of their robes. We did not call all Christians extremists. All the names are different, the bodies are different, but the holy books are synonymous with peace, with humility. Islam is synonymous with humbling the bones of your feet, kneeling to a merciful God and begging for forgiveness, and yet still our faith is questioned, our mosques are burned, our races are villainized. The 10-year-old boy who lost his entire family on one Sunday night was not Osama bin Laden. Fayaz was just a boy, and they were just a family. When a white mountain whispers an utterance of barbarity, you do not retaliate by painting entire nations with the colors red and gray. But without questioning or inferring further for clarity, masses of Muslims are labeled with words and assumed to all have one similarity. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for bearing with us. This has been a fantastic event. I thank you all very, very, very much for standing the rain and standing for this cause.